one of the biggest things you got to look at is the atmosphere within yourself. What is it like? Start to look within yourself. Start to dive within yourself. Begin to uncover these thought patterns. Begin to ask yourself, if you're continually feeling shitty, if you're continually feeling negative, ask yourself, is that because you have to be? Or is it because you're choosing that? Alright guys, we're just gonna get right into the video because intro kind of kills the vibe. So, you got the painting, you got the wall, yeah, we're in a place, I'm not gonna tell you what it is, yeah, I live here, whatever dude, I'm over it. Okay, so, listen guys, you're not always gonna get what you want, okay? You're not always gonna get the things you desire. Luckily for me, within these past couple months, I've gotten many things that have just spontaneously happened. Many things that have just arisen in my life that I once hoped for and I once dreamed of, and it just kind of walked into my life naturally. And it's crazy because when you start to develop the habits and the behaviors and you start to focus more on yourself and you start to just put your nose down and just start building those habits day in and day out, and you turn the attention inwards, that's when you begin to attract those things as a byproduct, right? And so those things that you want, the dream in your head, right? Of course, it's cool to have a vision because it allows you to have purpose. It allows you to have an aim in life. It allows you to walk not aimlessly, but with an aim. You're not just kind of stagnant. You're constantly moving. You're constantly shifting. You're constantly, whatever you're doing, you're prioritizing towards that goal. And a lot of people without that goal lack that motivation, right? And through that, they lack the necessary behaviors in order to get them to the point to where they want to go. And so, like I said before, over these past couple months, I've really been attracting things into my life, such as sports videography, my own career path, content creation, for example, all these different dimensions of my own life, such as spirituality, health, wellness, friends, family, positive relationships. And it's a confirmation to me that what I'm doing is right. Of course, I don't get everything that I want, by no means. And today was a big, big wake-up call for me, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But like I said before, what I'm doing is correct because I'm attracting abundance into my life. I'm attracting such positive vibes on a regular basis. And it's no coincidence that this is a regular reoccurrence for me, right? Because you have the ability to control your response to situations. You have the ability to choose the perspective that you take, right? There's a choice there. You're not stuck with one singular response. Sure, external situations are going to put you in a spot where you have to respond in a certain way externally, but internally, that's a different story. So for instance, today, right, I was thrown off my normal routine, and a whole bunch of things just came in to my life that I had to deal with. I had to. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. Like, I had to deal with these things. Were they things in my normal routine? No. But I let that seep into me internally, i.e., I let it dictate my response. I thought I had to respond in this like, oh my God, dude, I have to get this done right now. Oh my God, oh my God. I was like super anxious, not like super anxious. I was conscious of it, not like super full of anxiety, but I could tell like I was developing like a good sense of stress. Like obviously this helps me be more productive. This helps me, do different things. But in essence, I could have stayed completely chill, completely calm, completely neutral, just by controlling my response, not just falling into an unconscious thought pattern due to the external situation at hand. When the external situation has control over your response and you're not aware of that, that can become very, very dangerous. A lot of people don't even realize they control their own response to things. They don't even understand they have that ability, i.e., they have this thing within them that they have control over. And once they realize they have control over it, it completely drastically changes their life. Why? Because they can start to shift their reality in a way that hasn't always been the predominant mold of their life, right? So for instance, if an external situation happens, such as, you have to go into work on a Sunday. Oh, whoa, crazy. Today's Sunday and I had to go into work, right? You had to go into work on a Sunday and you're like, fuck, man, I gotta go into work. Like, shit happened. I'm just like, oh, dude, I gotta push all my errands till Monday, and I'm not going to be able to do this stuff today. And it's just like becomes a shitstorm in your mind. You're just like, fuck, 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 fuck. Rather than just understanding, like, that is the perspective that you are choosing. That is the response that you are choosing that moment, rather than just being like, okay, this is what I have to do. I'm just going to accept everything as it is. I'm not going to add to it by building up all this stress in my mind. I'm going to take all the emotions that I have at hand. I'm going to take all the feelings that I have at hand, all the thoughts. I'm going to surrender to these things after I'm aware of them. I'm going to observe them and let them absolve, right? And I feel like I've gotten very good at this practice, but it is a continual thing I need to hammer the fuck into my brain. And it's not to say like I need to like get all super stagnant. No, it's just like it's a habit that I want to develop. Through you being able to control your response to things and being able to really understand that you have the ability to choose a perspective when it comes to everything, because reality is neutral and the opinions, the beliefs, the values, the morals that you project onto reality are created by you, and the outside world just reflects that back to you. You can begin to understand that you are a co-creator of your own reality. And so, like I was saying before, it's no coincidence that I've been able to attract all this abundance into my life. I don't focus on the negative shit most of the time. Of course, like today, it got to me. And I'm sure it does for a lot of you too. So many people that I see are just constantly stuck in this negative state where they have everything going for them. Their life, 99% of their life, especially within the Western side of the world, there's so much positive. There's so much positive, but they love the negative. They select the negative. Selective attention, that's what they decide to focus on. And through them focusing on this is all that appears in their life. That positive appears as nothing to them. Of course, it's all relative, but that positive appears as nothing to them because all they see is just negative. Like, fuck, dude, my life sucks. And it really appears that way to them. And since they have developed that internal thinking habit of just constantly choosing the negative in their life, and then on top of that, continuing to choose to focus on the negative. So for instance, today, like if I had to go into work, right, and then you begin to just get on that kind of domino path of saying like, oh my God, I gotta just choose this negative perspective over and over and over and over and again, rather than being like, wow, I got an opportunity to go into work today. I got an opportunity to experience something new. It's just something like that. Coming up with a perspective that is positive in that situation. You have the ability to do that. Obviously, there are shitty situations, no doubt about it. There are shitty fucking situations. But Viktor Frankl, a man who went through the Holocaust, who was in essence a slave to the Nazis on a daily basis, he would be outside, no clothes, working all day on probably less than 500 calories a day, barely any water, in super cold conditions, could for years on end was still able to find meaning by being like, I'm going to choose the perspective and focus on getting back to my family. He believes meaning is generated by having a future goal. So for instance, he chose that perspective, he chose that response in that moment, and that fueled him to get through such shitty situations, objectively speaking. Like, there's not much that could be worse for a human being than the freaking Holocaust. But if a person can choose a perspective in that type of situation, that just shows the power and the extent of a human being, of an individual that can just, in a way, control their mind, control their perception, control their attention on what they are focusing on. Obviously, there are physical things going on in your body that you can't control, but Seneca, one of the greatest philosophers, says the chief task of a human being is to distinguish from what he can control and what he cannot control. And one of the few things you can control is your response to things like your emotions, to things like your feelings, to things like external situations that are objectively shitty as fuck. If you can begin to choose a perspective, and this is a message for me too, don't think I'm perfect at this. This is something that I gotta continually, like I said before, hammer into my brain, but it's so easy for us to follow along with the status quo of a situation, where the sequential trajectory of a situation, the norm of a situation is. Like, so for instance, if the situation is just with your friends, they're just complaining the entire time, right? If you're just giving in to that kind of energy, you're gonna wanna complain too. Believe it or not, you're just gonna pick up on that kind of energy and be like, yeah, fuck that guy, his eyebrows suck, yeah, Jason. No, I'm just kidding, I love your eyebrows. But you're just gonna feed into that energy, and then what do you know? It determines your thinking habits. It just determines all these things, and you think in that moment it doesn't have a huge effect on you, but it really does. And so in addition to things such as your friend circle and in your environment, one of the biggest things you got to look at is the atmosphere within yourself. What is it like? Start to look within yourself. Start to dive within yourself. Begin to uncover these thought patterns. Begin to ask yourself, if you're continually feeling shitty, if you're continually feeling negative, ask yourself, is that because you have to be? Or is it because you're choosing that? Every human being, I don't care who you are, has the ability to choose a positive perspective. Now, the difference is some people can choose it easier than others. This is why certain people remain in a much more positive state than certain individuals. And of course, there's many different factors for this, like such as where you grow up, your conditioning as a young kid, right? But if you've gotten to a point where you're no longer in that kind of childhood conditioning and your cognition has raised to a point where you can really start to become the observer, become an active force of change within your life, you can really begin to uncover these thought patterns that dictate your life and shape your perception on a regular basis. And I think it's just so important for people to recognize, and for myself too, like just today, literally, I was stuck in a situation where it's so easy to have all these thoughts flying in and just choosing to give into these thoughts, choosing to just let them engulf your mind. And then what do you know? You're no longer present. You're no longer in the here and now, in this neutral reality where things aren't nearly as expansive or bad as they are. Of course, we all have things to do. Of course, we all have situations, standards that we have to meet. But if we can understand that all these standards, all these things are man-made, that reality is meaningless, not to say to be a nihilist, right? Or there's no value to your life at all. Not saying that, but it's to understand that we create the value. We create the meaning. We create the norms. We create our response to things because we are the sources of that meaning. We are the sources of that value. And with that comes so much value because you can begin to understand that you have a lot more control than you think you do. And I don't mean like control like, the force like Yoda, like you're just gonna pick things up and move things around. You're so much more powerful than you understand. You may ask yourself, like, I'm standing here doing nothing, right? Is anything going on? No, you probably say no, right? But there's like a million things going on in my body without me trying to actively make that happen. So both physically, there's so many things going on. There's a million fucking things, atoms, science stuff going on around me. The odds of you being alive are like 1 in 400 trillion or quadrillion. I don't even know. It's less than you getting eaten by a shark or winning the lottery. Look it up, all right? The fact that you are here now, you're so lucky to be alive, right? There's so much positive in your life. And the fact on top of that, you have the ability to choose a positive perspective every single second of every waking hour of every single day. Of course, we fall into these unconscious habits, but that ability is always there. So you always have that chance, that opportunity to choose a positive perspective, to shift the feelings, the emotions, the beliefs you have, and really alter the perspective that you have on a daily basis. And what do you know? That'll completely flip your interactions with people around you and the like. So I know I'm kind of like just ranting on this video, but dude, fuck it. I don't give a fuck, mate. The whole message of this video is to understand that you are so much more powerful than you realize. You are so much more of a significant individual that can do so much, but you just don't recognize that. Just 50% of that issue is just you being aware of that. And then you start to change your response. You start to change your thought patterns. You start to implement behaviors and habits that you've always wanted, right? And then you'll start to attract all these things that you've always wanted as a byproduct, even though you're not focusing on that anymore. You're focusing on the daily habits, the daily standards that you have on a regular basis. So whether that be meditation, journaling, working out, just going for a walk, doing your homework, going to work, doing the best job you can at your work. You start to begin to focus on that, and then you start to attract all these things into your life, such as self-love, self-confidence, right? The ability to be yourself around others without fear. You can just be your authentic self. And the authentic self needs no intellectual identity. It just begins to come naturally. And that really, I believe, is the secret to the universe. And Ralph Smart says, the universe reveals its secrets to those who dare to be themselves. And so with all that being said, guys, love yourself because I love you. Stay handsome, and we're clocking out, people.